Kurram, a picturesque region nestled in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, became the scene of a horrific tragedy on November 22, 2024. Gunmen, their motives steeped in sectarian hatred, unleashed a wave of violence, targeting two convoys of Shia pilgrims. This act of terror, leaving dozens dead and injured, has once again exposed the deep-seated sectarian divisions plaguing the region. The attack, as brutal as it was cowardly, serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in a region grappling with historical grievances and mistrust. The victims, on a journey of faith, became easy targets for those who seek to sow discord and perpetuate a cycle of violence. The global community watches in horror as the death toll mounts, a grim testament to the human cost of intolerance. The incident has sparked outrage and condemnation, both within Pakistan and internationally. This latest act of violence is not an isolated incident, but rather a symptom of a deeper malaise that has plagued the region for far too long. It underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive approach to address the root causes of sectarianism and to bring the perpetrators to justice. The attack unfolded with chilling precision, targeting two convoys of Shia pilgrims making their way through the rugged terrain of Kurram. The pilgrims, accompanied by a security detail, were ambushed by gunmen who opened fire indiscriminately. Eyewitnesses described scenes of chaos and carnage as the attackers sprayed bullets into the crowded vehicles. The pilgrims, caught off guard, had little chance to defend themselves. The air was filled with the sounds of gunfire and screams, a terrifying symphony of violence. The death toll, a grim reflection of the attackers' brutality, stands at 42 with scores injured. Among the dead were women and children, their lives cut short in a senseless act of hatred. The attackers, their identities still unknown, fled the scene, leaving behind a trail of death and destruction. This brazen attack, carried out in broad daylight, highlights the audacity of the perpetrators and the vulnerability of the Shia community in the region. It has also raised serious questions about the adequacy of security measures in place to protect vulnerable groups. The Pakistani government, in the immediate aftermath of the attack, issued strong condemnations, vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, expressing his deep sorrow and outrage, called the attack an act of sheer brutality by enemies of peace. He directed law enforcement agencies to launch a full-scale investigation, promising swift and decisive action against those responsible. The government has also pledged to provide financial assistance to the families of the victims and to ensure that the injured receive the best possible medical care. The attack has also drawn condemnation from international organizations, including the United Nations, which called for restraint and urged Pakistani authorities to take steps to protect religious minorities. The United States, a key ally of Pakistan, expressed condolences and offered assistance in the investigation. While the government's condemnation and pledges of action are welcome, many in the Shia community remain skeptical, pointing to a history of impunity for perpetrators of sectarian violence. Section 4. A history steeped in conflict. Kurram's long struggle with sectarian violence. The recent attack in Kurram is a grim reminder of the region's long and bloody history of sectarian violence. Situated in the volatile border region between Pakistan and Afghanistan, Kurram has been a battleground for various militant groups vying for control. The region is home to a diverse mix of ethnicities and sects, with a predominantly Shia population living alongside Sunni Muslims. This sectarian fault line has been exploited by extremist groups who have used it to incite violence and further their own agendas. The Pakistani Taliban, or TTP, and other Sunni militant groups have targeted Shia Muslims in the past, carrying out bombings and assassinations. The Shia community, feeling vulnerable and under siege, has often retaliated, leading to a deadly cycle of violence. The Pakistani government has struggled to contain the violence, often resorting to military operations that have resulted in civilian casualties and displacement. The lack of economic opportunities and basic services in the region has further fueled resentment and instability. Section 5. Geopolitical significance. A region rife with instability. Kurram's strategic location, nestled in the Hindu Kush Mountains along the porous border with Afghanistan, has long made it a focal point of geopolitical interest. This mountainous region serves as a key transit route for militants and smugglers, further complicating the security situation. The presence of the Durand Line, the disputed border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, has added another layer of complexity. The Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan in 2021 has raised concerns about the potential for spillover of violence into Pakistan. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, a close ally of the Afghan Taliban, has intensified its attacks in Pakistan, targeting security forces and civilians alike. The group has exploited the volatile situation in Afghanistan to regroup and expand its operations. The international community has a vested interest in promoting stability in Kurram and the wider border region. The region's instability has implications for regional security and the fight against terrorism. Section 6. Voices from the ground, living in the shadow of fear. For the Shia community in Kurram, the recent attack has deepened a sense of fear and vulnerability. They have long borne the brunt of sectarian violence, living under the constant threat of attacks on their mosques, processions, and even their homes. "We are living in a state of constant fear," said Fatima, a resident of Parachinar, Kurram's main town. "Every time we step out of our homes, we wonder if we will return alive." Her voice, filled with a mixture of sorrow and defiance, reflects the sentiments of many in the community. The attack has also had a devastating impact on the families of the victims. The grief of losing loved ones is compounded by the knowledge that justice may never be served. Many feel let down by the government, which they accuse of failing to protect them. Despite the challenges, the Shia community has shown remarkable resilience, refusing to be cowed by the violence. They continue to demand their rights, calling for an end to the cycle of violence and discrimination. Section 7. A plea for peace. The path forward. The tragic events in Kurram are a stark reminder of the human cost of sectarianism. The path forward requires a multi-pronged approach that addresses both the symptoms and the root causes of this complex issue. The Pakistani government must take concrete steps to protect the Shia community and other religious minorities. This includes ensuring the security of their places of worship, processions, and communities. It also means bringing the perpetrators of sectarian violence to justice, no matter their affiliation or influence. Equally important is the need to address the underlying factors that fuel sectarianism. This includes tackling hate speech, promoting interfaith dialogue, and addressing socio-economic disparities that often exacerbate divisions. The international community can play a constructive role by supporting Pakistan's efforts to combat sectarianism. This includes providing financial and technical assistance for security sector reform, promoting interfaith dialogue, and addressing the humanitarian needs of those affected by violence. Ultimately, peace in Kurram will require a collective effort from all segments of society. It is time for Pakistan to confront the demon of sectarianism head-on and build a future where all citizens can live in peace and harmony.